Welcome back to the Super Good, Super Delicious podcast. I'm your host, Carly, and today we're going to have a little bit of a different episode. So we're gonna chit-chat with someone a little bit about what it's like to go from being non-vegan to vegan, the transition, and also being in a vegan relationship. So I would like to introduce you guys to my boyfriend, Clay, aka Creative Fro.
First time on the podcast. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I would like to just. This is weird.
I know. I'm like trying to be comfy. Relax.
This is giving me a flashback to when I was. No, when I first became a personal trainer at Good Life. Like 10 years ago, because we were first kind of like getting to know each other, and I asked him to do, what was it called? It was like a consultation because that was like part of my job, and how I was like trying to get clients was to do a consultation, and you could get like free I don't remember actually if you get free sessions, but anyways, this is really giving
like 3 free training.
Yeah.
If I did a consultation.
Yeah, something like that, right? So this is really giving me the vibe of like interviewing you, because it was very like kind of interview style.
Like you're interrogating me.
Yeah, literally. Of like, oh, like, do you smoke? Do you drink? Like, how much do you normally work out?
And she added some extra questions just for herself.
Oh,
just to
yeah.
Kinda, you know.
Okay. So this is my first guest on our podcast. Obviously in our own home. Like, you guys just see me on my bed or whatever. We're from the ground up here, so, you know.
Gotta start somewhere.
And I really do just like being myself talking to the camera, so I don't really like...
It's just more natural. And I want to say something as an editor, creator, all this. I think you need to be cutting your podcast clips into shorts. So I haven't seen any lately.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that'll help drive more traffic to it too. So any like kind of
true.
hot topics or hot takes even or whatever, just things you think resonate well, like that 60-second, 30-second range.
Yeah.
Clip it.
Because I've only done it, I think, to like 1 or 2 episodes.
Because it's a good podcast. It's great information.
Yeah.
It's very, I think it's tangible. It's educational. And just a lot of people out there don't really have this information at hand.
That's true.
You usually have to go looking. So I think, the more you share, the more you're going to help everybody. So thanks for having me on. I'm excited for this. It'll be good. And
with that if you haven't noticed, or you couldn't tell, you kind of gave away what your like job is. I was gonna do just a quick like
background.
What do you do for a living, basically? Like, what is your role in society?
Facts. I'm a content creator. Shoot things, edit things. I'm a videographer and an editor, and work with like local brands on social media videos. Also do some sports stuff too as well. Ideally, I'd like to be doing sports specifically one day. So the last few years just been kind of mapping out what can make us money, what's my passion, and trying to find that balance within creativity. So I think too, I miss YouTube. I miss doing stuff like this. This is my first like sitting down and speaking to a camera and you and so long. So I'm hoping to get my YouTube channel kicked up again. I have more subscribers right now than Carly's, but I gotta put my butt into gear. But I had a passion always as a kid for the camera. I had a YouTube channel way back in the day. So for me, video is something that comes natural, and I feel like it's the most authentic way to connect with people, especially online nowadays too as well. Depending on how you're, some people are like they do it for the camera, but I feel like for me, a lot of the people that I like and I follow on social media and stuff, it's I feel like I feel their energy through the camera. So it's something that's always been a passion. So no matter what, I think a camera creativity is always going to be involved in my life. It's I'm grateful that we're able to sustain our lifestyle with our jobs and what we're doing, and I can only see the future getting bigger from here. So that's a background of me, and that's pretty much what I've been doing. I couldn't be more grateful to have supporting partner, supporting creative member, everything. You're my backbone, you're my rib.
And that's why I'm so good at my own YouTube videos. Just kidding. That's kind of why that's why I have actually started YouTube and the podcast and everything in general, to be honest. I was definitely going towards like an Instagram girly and influencer and that type. Like, I'm still kind of on that path, but you from the get-go, this was like in 2017, when you were first starting your YouTube and everything, I mean, you had been on YouTube and stuff before that point, but you were very like, you need to start a YouTube channel, yada yada, and I was very like, okay, like let me just vlog my boring life and doing whatever, and I was very like here and there about it for years, like literally until last year, October-ish, I think, or September, I like really started to actually be consistent with it and seeing it grow. So now I'm catching up to you. So that's a good feeling, you know.
Slow feet don't eat.
Maybe I will beat you. I think I will beat him. So, you know, comment below if you think I will hit 1,000 subs before him.
Yeah, I'm at 820, something like that, I think. 826.
Something like that. Yeah. And then I am at, right now, I mean, I didn't check today or anything. I think I'm around 687, something like that.
Getting there, close.
Yeah, so I'm encroaching upon 700. So I'm like less than 100, well, maybe close to 150 away from you. Yeah. So, you know, that's going to be, it's a little competition. We have a little competition. We've always been competitive with each other, actually, to be honest. We've worked at like 3 or 4 different jobs.
Yeah, I'd say 3.
At least 3.
That we were employed by, and like this 4th is basically it's our own.
Oh yeah, that's true. So like working for ourselves, basically. That's
so
true.
4, I guess technically, but 3 like we were paid
on
by
paper, other companies. Yeah, jobs. Back to the
what's this podcast
topics.
Even about?
Yeah, the topics at hand. I introduced. Okay, this was going to be talking about how we transitioned to being vegan and a little bit about being a vegan couple and how that's kind of gone for us. I think we have kind of, I mean, maybe that's just being me, but like a unique kind of story situation, which actually may be more normal than a lot of people think, because like I said, a lot of people probably weren't like born vegan, like they weren't raised vegan. Like we were raised very like meat and potatoes kind of.
Shake and bake.
Yeah, like we were raised like that. So we weren't really introduced to like a wide variety of anything or options, to be honest. Like growing up thinking that like I had to eat meat or like, I don't know, gonna die or something. Like that's kind of how my brain thought about it back then, which is funny because like you don't actually have to eat meat, but like we're instilled with I have to eat meat. Yep. Let's just run it back to you and I. So when we met, we were not vegan. I knew that I had a dairy allergy when we met. And I remember on our like first date that it was at like a Good Earth in Calgary. Yeah. And we're like, we'll get a sandwich and a drink or something like that. And I remember sitting at the table and I had gotten a grilled cheese and I knew I should not have gotten a grilled cheese, but like I'm not really like that big of a sandwich person. I'm kind of like picky back then anyways. And so I was like, okay, a grilled cheese it is. And I remember sitting and having a conversation and I was like, yeah, so like I actually shouldn't be eating this. Like I can't eat dairy, just so you know, but like we're just seeing each other now. Like you're not going to see me tomorrow or later tonight when this is going to mess me up. So this is like over 10 years ago at this point, actually. Yeah, so I remember that vividly, conversation of me being like, just so you know, actually, I can't eat dairy. Yeah. I'm eating it now, but that's kind of how it was for a while, where I'd have like the lactate pills or whatever, and I would just, if I had dairy or too much of it, like ice cream or something, I would just pop the pills, and like that's what you lived with for several years of me just being like, well, I'll just take some pills and eat the ice cream or whatever, or the cheese. But you, at that point, didn't really have any food problems, I don't think.
Nope. Yeah, when we first were together, there was no food issues.
Yeah, I guess we shouldn't call them like problems, but like sensitivities or anything like that you knew of.
No, eggs were always a hit and miss for me. In recipes, fine. But like eating eggs alone seemed to cause some issues, or egg whites, because I was doing bodybuilding back then when I first had met Carly too. So egg whites were huge, and I remember putting in my protein shake and just like gagging basically. I thought something was wrong with me. I was like, why can't I eat these? Why can't I, digest them? And everyone told me get them. They're cheap, and it's easy to get protein in. So that was like the only biggest thing at the time, but which wasn't so bad anyways. So.
And at the time, we really thought you just like hated eggs.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like an allergy or a sensitivity or anything like that.
You were just like, I hate the texture. Like kind of how you don't really love bananas.
Yes, yeah.
You thought it was like a weird egg thing. Which fair, eggs are kind of, you know, some people don't like eggs, whatever. They're a weird texture and they can be made several different ways.
So many.
So I don't blame you. You kind of avoided the eggs, but like I liked having egg wraps and stuff like that. You tried to eat the egg wraps actually.
And sometimes it would go down fine.
Yeah.
But I needed a lot of mustard, a lot of cheese.
Yeah, a lot of cheese.
So it was weird. It was like, but then my stomach wouldn't be upset. But just sometimes I'd have it again, the exact same thing. My stomach would get a little upset. I remember the one time trying to chug those back to egg whites. I was trying to chug them, and my eyes were like watering as it was going down. I was like, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym now. And I was on like the train on the way to the gym, and I was like, my world was spinning.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I feel so sick.
Yep.
So I knew, at that point it was just the eggs, and then the wraps. Yeah. So then the wraps were okay sometimes. Even if my mom, like back when I was a kid, I never ate eggs either, younger, but if she fried it up, same kind of thing with cheese, mustard.
Yeah.
That was okay sometimes.
Yeah.
Very rare though. That yolk stuff, you have to cook the hell out of it because I'm like, that grossed me out the most. I'm like, why is this slimy?
Yeah. So then that reminded me of something else because I feel like through bodybuilding, so he got into bodybuilding, which so
you put out some pictures.
We could probably post up some pictures for the visual viewers. You can see a few pictures we'll post on here. So I became a personal trainer, then he decided to do bodybuilding. It was perfect. We went to the same gym and everything. And so I feel like that actually uncovered some of your food allergies that you did have. And then it made things kind of like also realize down the road, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. So we also discovered that almonds, you have a sensitivity to almonds. So then we found out through bodybuilding, a handful of almonds actually upsets your stomach too. That wasn't until later on, but you were kind of like having problems with almonds, I found. That time, like, same thing as the eggs, kind of like not knowing. Yeah. But just didn't feel good after eating them, so it's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't eat that much almonds anymore.
Yeah, be careful with it.
But that was pretty much it. And then obviously, like, throughout bodybuilding, it's a lot of like protein, like meat. We would go and you would buy like the most amount of chicken because, you know, if you're familiar with the bodybuilding industry, it's a lot of just chicken, rice, broccoli, that kind of thing. Or like ground beef. Like he would just switch and like how mundane, like eat. I could never. So there was like a lot of that with you. And then I was kind of following suit, but at the same time, I was really starting to push it away. Like I was starting to find the Gardeins chicken strips and I was like trying those and I was eating those and like you were trying them. You actually liked them at first too. And this was a long time ago. So like they were their first phase. Like there was, I think, the meatballs, the ground, and like the chicken strips. Basically, that was like all that they had. So I was starting to introduce those kind of foods in. At the time, I really like was not interested in vegan cheeses or anything. But I had always been, since I was like 18, having non-dairy milks. So we had been kind of dairy-free to an extent with milks. And then I started introducing the Gardeins, like chicken strips and stuff like that. I was kind of playing with them. And I was starting to cut out meat out of my diet because I didn't really love it. Like, I have never really loved meat. And so then you were very like force feeding yourself the protein for bodybuilding. But we really realized as well, like when you're eating the chicken or preparing the chicken, for example, of how much you actually didn't like meat from the get-go, really.
Well, basically, bodybuilding is protein, right? So you're just recycling or kind of like turntable, different proteins. You have your same kind of carb. And veggies, honestly, I didn't really have that many greens during the time. I remember I worked at a supplement store, and I'd get the green mix, so just that one scoop, and I thought that was perfect for greens. So looking back, I think I kind of, what's the right word? I disrupted like my internal, like my
organ bio.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was mainly just protein, a carb, and then like the one greens that I'd had. So we were looking at, especially when bulking season, you're probably like 4 or 5 meals. Sometimes I was doing 6, like near the end of my career. just to grow. And then we're having a shake or two on top of that too as well. So high volume. Your stomach's basically always working at that point. I remember after work sometimes I come home and have a meal and just be passed out, and my meal's like on my on my chest, and Carly's taking pictures of me, and then it was demanding. And I remember at the time I was just very I've always been competitive growing up, playing football, bodybuilding, all these things. Even now together, that's one thing we've always kind of like had a passion for, being competitive. So being competitive, I wanted to grow and win and everything. And I look back and I'm like, for a lot of my shows, I'm like, I could have done more. I could have ate more. I missed a couple meals here and there. So I remember I was like, just hard set. I'm not going to skip these meals. Like, yeah, force feeding. I would end up force feeding myself. Just knowing everybody else is doing it too. So I'm not an anomaly. But I think inside I was having issues that I just didn't want to face and I didn't want to admit to. And honestly, I think a lack of awareness too as well. I wasn't aware of like what it was doing to me and why, maybe TMI, but why am I going to washroom so much?
Yeah.
Like 7 times a day, and I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff wasn't looking normal. Trust me. But I didn't know that till, like, again, relationship, you get deep, you talk about things, you realize, wow, that's maybe not healthy.
Yeah.
So just to bring this all the way back, as a kid, never really loved meat too much. Like, I ate it just because it was there. I didn't want to get in trouble. My mom's like, finish what's on the plate.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste food. So I'm like, say it's pork. You have that little bit of fat on the side, right? The gristle and all that stuff. Heebie-jeebies. I don't like that. Right? And then we have ground beef. I wasn't so bad with the gristle as much as Carly.
Yeah, the gristle for me, gag. Like I'll actually, like, my mom used to catch me because I would just be like munching in my mouth to try and find the gristle pieces so I could spit them out.
Yep.
Like, you can't do that in public around other people. Like, but to me, I was just like, I will vomit.
Yep.
Like, this is not going down.
For real. And I couldn't agree more. And just even seeing like kind of the fat, like after, I'm trying to think what the meal was. It was like, I think it was ground beef. And the one time it had just sat in the pan and like seeing all the white, like the fat just solidify around it.
Oh, when it gets cold?
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, we're eating that. And as a kid, like whatever, I just thought that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't love this. And even like just the texture is fine, whatever. But like, I'm just trying to really put myself back as a kid. I just didn't love like,
sometimes for me,
chewiness.
I'm thinking about like the, sometimes it tasted kind of like an old meat.
Yes.
Like an old stale.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was or if it was just like that, the fact that we didn't love it.
Yeah.
That it just.
And a mixture of both, right? You're finding ways, and even my little dog Napoleon, rest his sweet, sweet soul. He would hide underneath my chair at dinner time. Well, the table's here, so he's underneath. He's looking for scraps. So when my mom would like walk back to the kitchen, just getting him some of the pieces that I saved for the meat, like, take this, Bubs, take it. And I was so grateful that he would just kind of swallow things. Yeah. So my mom didn't really know that I was giving him that. I remember I was like, okay, at least Bubs can help me kind of get this gone. But even my sister, she didn't like it either.
No.
And she always told my mom, oh, I'm going to be a vegan one day. I'm not going to do this. Like, okay, when you can buy your own groceries or whatever, we'll see. But so always as a kid, I never loved it. I ate it because we needed to.
Yeah.
Bacon, so something I did like at the time. Very greasy, but we didn't have it all the time either. My mom wasn't buying bacon like every week. So, one other story. I remember with pizzas. My mom, sister, and I, because we all three of us grew up together, and we would get a pizza on Friday. And I remember every time we got the wings, I never took any wings, but I got extra slices of pizza basically for not having wings. So it worked out in my eyes. I was like, I'll take this. But I remember the chicken wings, I would eat them, and then sometimes I'd hit that vein part in the middle, and it's like that wing. What's that one called? The wing or
I don't know.
Because there's the wing and the drumstick or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I would go to the wing, you could push out the meat in the middle. So I remember eating it, and I'm like, the veins in there creep me out. And I was like, why does there need to be veins in here?
Yeah.
Mom was like, well, that's just the meat. And I'm like, oh, okay, weird. But I would eat it, and then sometimes it gets stuck in my tooth. Oh, it would just, I think sensory overload for me, and I just didn't like that. So that's the vision I had in my mind every time I saw a chicken wing. I'm like, I don't want to have that. I'll have 2 pizzas. Yeah, as a kid, I never thought I would be vegan. Honestly, I didn't think it was sustainable too because of like the whole eating meat for protein, playing football younger. My mom would tell me, I would see football hits on highlights, like, how do I hit that hard? My mom would tell me, you got to drink more milk, stronger. Like, okay, I'll drink more milk. And I didn't hate milk, like that was okay. But I remember just trying to chug milk, and now looking back, I'm like, geez, I don't need any protein I don't need any milk to make me stronger because we just use the plant milks now. And
Yeah.
I've been steadily holding like over 200 pounds, like for
Probably like 7 years
now. Yeah. And
like
even now being vegan for how many years? About
5.
5, like a pure veganism.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting stronger still to this day. I'm maintaining my weight. I've even went overweight before too as well, just during some like tougher times and things. But there's definitely not a lack of nutrients and stuff. So even going out to KFC with my friends and things like that, I always wanted like a chicken sandwich, nothing with bones, or like chicken nuggets, or just a burger, something like that. Just kind of like anything that was like no bone around it.
Yeah.
Even steaks, like I didn't mind a steak, but I didn't want the one with like that T-bone or whatever.
Yeah.
Because again, it was just back to I don't like the fat and.
And that's like a big problem for me too, is like I want to actually chew into something and it breaks down in my mouth and I swallow it. And so like talking about all of these old things we used to eat was like quite disgusting.
And even some of the meat I was buying, like, this looks bad. I'm like, should I still even eat this?
Yeah.
So that was another thing of like having the worry, especially bodybuilding, you don't want to get sick. I'm like, why is this red meat gray right now?
Yeah.
Like, is that healthy? Again, so I think we eat first with our eyes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I'm eating with my eyes and feeling that, like, what am I taking in? And it's like that an animal had a choice or anything. So for me, I think it was a lot of that trauma of like, again, I'm very, empath I don't think is the right word, but I love animals. I love like humans that I connect with too as well. So I think for me, it just was weird of, eating something that was like meat. And then even as a kid, I honestly thought, I'm like, what's the difference of eating like a human skin? You know what I mean? Like if we're eating all this stuff, human flesh, it's like, it's the same. To me, it's messed up. I'm not going to eat a human. I never would, never did. But that's what I was thinking. I'm like, if we're eating meat, like why do we not eat? Like, and I didn't think like, oh, let's eat human. But I was just, I didn't love it. And I remember too, when I was in my depths of like, I wanted to be a pro and, go to the Olympia, if you know what that is. It's like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. So I always thought, I'm like, when I make it to the pinnacle and I am done, I will be vegan.
Yeah.
That's
you told me so many times.
Yeah, I will be. I'm like, it looks so much better. It's so much easier to maintain. You don't have to worry about, oh, is this going to go bad? Because really, it's just.
We're going to get food poisoning.
Yes. Because they say food that doesn't go bad is bad for you, right? So I think having the vegetables and all these plant-based options, it just only made sense for me. And then seeing Carly eat them, still being healthy, enjoying them. I remember when I tried some of your chicken, sometimes like, oh, this is same old typical meat eater. Like, oh, this is awful. This is just like tofu's terrible, overly processed. And to be honest, if you're gonna say tofu's processed, it's like meat is processed just as much, if not even more. All the stages there are from like the farming of them and raising them and taking them through each stage until it's like brought into the stores. It's a lot of process. So you can't just use that argument per se. But I remember it was just I thought bodybuilding was my last hold to eating meat, and it was only for the purpose. So at the time I was like, I can't put on muscle without the protein. But then with bodybuilding, you have to be very cognizant of the carb and fat intake, which is like can be a little bit harder with being vegan, just because some of the sources it tends to be either higher in a fat or a carb, lack of the protein per se. But again, you just have to manage it. I think you could still do it. It's not impossible, but I think your options are going to be a little bit dwindled in a way. So especially if you need to have if you're at a certain size, you need a certain amount of protein, you're going to have to eat a lot and making sure you're lower on the carbs because you're trying to deplete the body and load it up for the showtime. So I think it wouldn't be impossible. I don't want to do that. I think at this point in my life, I'm kind of done with that, but I do try to like kind of follow like a routine. Carly makes all the food.
But I think as well, most of our priorities are, am I getting protein? Am I getting enough like greens and like actual nutrition from these meals? Like you think more about like the B12 or the vitamin D, like different little supplements or like the very micronutrients of things. Where I feel like so many people or so many meat eaters maybe like poop on vegans because it's like, oh, like where are you getting this? And it's like, do you know where you're getting your nutrients from? Do you know, are you even eating greens? To speak on food in general, my eyes have never been more open, if you guys have seen some of my cooking videos, to other cultures and other cultures of food, because there's a lot of cultures out there that don't eat meat. Growing up, like I said, very meat, potatoes, veggies, whatever, like very simple, very like white meals that we grew up with. Where now it's like we eat curries all the time. We eat like noodles, like a rice noodle bowl. Like I would say it's more of like an Asian cuisine meal that like I never grew up. Well, we grew up with ramen.
Yeah.
like instant
Packets.
noodles, you know
Yep.
what I mean? Like that's not, I wouldn't
Break that
consider
up
that.
raw
Yeah,
and put the chicken, yeah, shake it up.
You know, it's just funny, like the way we're raised, and then now we're grown people, we're
Yep.
in our 20s, and we decided like I don't want to eat like this anymore.
And I think too, a lot of it was fear of the unknown. I think
Yes,
like changing
yeah.
into, I knew me, I knew what my mom said about drinking milk and all these things. And when it was time to make the full change to not eating meat, it came with a lot of, especially from close friends and family, a lot of like scrutiny, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. Or just questioning, yeah, where are you getting the protein? Where are you getting your nutrients? Well, at least Carly and I, we did our due diligence, like watching
Yeah.
vegan YouTubers. And Brian Turner, if you want to check him out, he was one of the first ones that we kind of
Yeah,
were
that
really
you-
getting into. Because again, he was a little bit of that bodybuilder
Yeah.
background. Him and his girlfriend both did videos together, so I did enjoy that. It was like you get to see both sides of it.
Yeah.
And watching those videos, just researching and looking into things, like I found out what, like, is it selenium or selenium?
Selenium, I think.
Selenium. So I didn't know that that was, you know, an important micronutrient. So my family has been prone to breast cancer in the past. So when I was researching, I saw that having a Brazil nut a day reduces the risk of chance of getting breast cancer. So that was something I never would have known eating meat and how I normally was
Yeah.
because I didn't do that research. And I honestly, I don't know how much selenium I was getting from all the stuff I was eating before. I don't even
Yeah.
know if I got any.
Yeah.
So actually now when we became vegan, we were more aware of like those micronutrients
Yeah.
and macronutrients. And yeah, I just think overall it felt better eating something and having confidence in like we're okay because we know what we're doing. So, you know, just family members kind of getting that hot seat of like, oh, where's this coming? Where's this coming from? And, you know, for me, I was always kind of like a little bit more of like, well, I'll work out more than you. I'll do all these
Yeah.
things. But it's not a competition at the end of the day. It's for
Yeah.
your longevity.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of research shown that, you know, plant-based diet has helped for Alzheimer's prevention and, you know, just kind of keeping your brain as healthy as it can be. Like, again, it's not going to be perfect like life. Like there's circumstances and environments that could cause things. But
Yeah.
I think for the most part, what you're putting in is up to you. And it's like you have advocacy over your body, right? So you have to do that research and again, take care of yourself. It weaponizes with more knowledge and more confidence in what we're doing. Yeah, at the end of the day, like now it's been, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
Been vegan. Your family, it's kind of gotten the point. My
Yeah.
family definitely got the point.
Yeah.
So it's hard when the family isn't as supportive, but we're super grateful to have family
Yeah.
that finally like understands. Your dad will rag on you a bit, but it's
Oh,
not like
yeah.
he's being serious. So I think
No.
it's just, you know, if you are changing and you're scared of, you know, bringing it up to your family and, you know, if they are pressing you, I would say just kind of weaponize yourself with the 3 pieces of knowledge that
Yeah.
like, you know, you could say, well, this is where it's coming from. And don't think you have to justify anything by any means and come off aggressive. But I think if you have that confidence knowing like what you're doing is for you, your parents don't need to eat it. Your sister,
Yeah.
family, brother, mother, whatever, they're not eating, it's for you. And I think, again, having a partner helps.
Yeah.
But if that partner's not going to see eye to eye, or at least like meet you halfway, I think that's something to consider if you plan on spending the rest of your life with
Yeah.
that person too, right? So even now with Carly finding out that you have celiac disease, it's that was a change for me, eating vegan and everything,
Yeah.
you know, having my breads and stuff. It was like at first, like Carly's, don't kiss me after eating a sandwich. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, well, how can that be
Yeah.
possible? So Carly in her journey has taught me things that I had no idea, how easy it is to contaminate a kitchen with gluten. Like even just putting a piece of bread into the oven without a tray at the bottom or whatever, that could put you at risk if you do the same exact thing with your
Yeah.
gluten-free bread because it doesn't really cook off and die like how other things would, like germs.
bacteria,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So, and yeah, just keeping things more clean. And, you know, when we have tacos, say if I'm having a wrap that has gluten, you have your normal taco shells. What we'll do is, so when I make my wraps, so I don't cross-contaminate into like the salad, tomatoes, and those little hand things, we just separate 2 little cups. I have
Yeah.
one, you have one, and whatever we're having. So it's lettuce, tomato, or cheese. I'll kind of portion that out before.
Yeah.
So I make these chicken nugget wraps, like it's like a buffalo wrap, and it's the breaded chicken, and it has the wraps too as well. So I'll make sure when I'm making that, I usually take out the cheese and my pickles and stuff first, so that way if I do touch anything, I'm not going back into those
Yeah.
things that Carly is going to be touching too. So again, it was like a little bit of a workaround. I was kind of like, are you serious? Like this
Yeah.
is, what the heck? But then seeing how Carly can be affected if gluten is contaminated or you had a flare-up of some sort, it's a nightmare. And I feel
Yeah.
bad because I'm like, well, my other half is bad now,
Yeah.
right? So that's what I think too as well. If you just, you know, maybe you could use this video to show your significant other, hey, maybe there's some things we can try together. Maybe we can meet each other halfway. If your partner's not willing to meet you halfway or work with you, why are we together anyways? You know, why are we trying to build? And again, that's like relationships at the base of the core is you want to build the roots in the ground stronger. So when the tree blooms, it's, you know, it's bright, it's strong, it can weather any storm. And I think, you know, you can look at things as a storm, but I think as life goes on, it's just, there's little different obstacles. Yeah. So with you having even back from being lactose, like that's something I had to learn. That's something I didn't know. Yeah. And, you know, you see people kind of say, oh, people have allergies for attention. I remember working in the kitchen and I was like, I'm like, why are gluten-free? I'm like, well, who cares? Like, it's allergies. You're coming out to eat. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, like fast forward all these years, I'm like, geez, like somebody can get severely sick for a long period of time because I didn't care about them having celiac disease. So I think over years, you're kind of a little bit, as you're younger, a little more kind of stuck in your ways, however you're raised.
More naive too.
Yeah, exactly. I think loving somebody too helps, like, because I love you, I want to support you, you know. So I think, again, anything that comes up in the future, we're going to work through it together, no matter what.
Yeah. And but you've also seen me at my worst.
Yep.
Like, you've been there. And that's the thing, too, that, like, a considerate, caring partner should be willing to, like, you've seen me be sick for days. You see me, like, every single day be, like, laying on the couch, like, I don't feel good. Like, what's wrong with me? What am I eating? Because
sometimes we didn't even think it was food, though. We just thought you sleep or whatever. So it's hard to put our thumb on it sometimes.
Yes, which I think a lot of maybe people that have been diagnosed celiac could relate to, actually being like, or food allergies in general, that, like, you don't think it's anything. And then it's like, oh, it was this the whole time that was making you feel bad. And so you've seen from the get-go, like, I remember at one of your bodybuilding shows, and I was like, oh, goat cheese is fine. And we went up for dinner, and literally I ate this pasta dish that was full of cheese and dairy, and, like, I died. Like, I was so sick that night after eating that, and that was, like, you'd had experienced it a little bit, but I didn't take any pills or anything, and literally you were like, okay, like, you cannot eat dairy. Like, I don't want you to be like that because, like, what is happening? Like, you're so sick. Like, I don't want that. And so you were not just brushing me off like, oh, whatever, she's just sick again. Like, like, someone I feel like that is not meant for you might do that and might just be like, oh, whatever, she just wants attention. She's just sick all the time. And it's like, clearly something more was going on. And you just stuck it out, and now I'm like, I feel great, like, all the time. And so you get the benefit of now I'm good. You got the worst, and now you've got the good of it. So
and I think that's life. Like, honestly, I've become to embrace that, you know, since, honestly, even my mom passing 7 years ago and us going through that together. That's been, you know, my world turned upside down. I didn't understand, like, what life meant and things like that. And I think, again, it was nice to have Carly to lean on during those times and, you know, help kind of take over more of control of really everything. I was kind of just on cruise control at that point in my life, you know, getting better, stronger throughout the years. You know, I still have the days, but even, you know, losing our dog together, that was something that's so hard. Like, I had him since I was 16, and then Carly and I were together, and we moved here about 7-ish years ago. And we ended up taking care of him for that rest of the time. And, you know, a lot of learning and growth in that too as well. But I think, so whether it's food, a financial, a family thing, like having somebody that you care and support beside you, and you do the same for them too as well, I think that's very important. Because life is never perfect, but I think that's what makes the beauty of life, like having these obstacles we overcome. So, you know, when we have our hard times and we get our wins, it's like those wins feel much better because we've been dragged through the mud together, and we can remember, wow, those days were like that. Now here we are. So, yeah, I think this is like full circle, whether it's, you know, if you're with somebody that's maybe not there yet, and you're trying to get them there. I guess what's a good way, what would you say? What's a good way to kind of poke, say I wasn't doing bodybuilding, I was just a normal kind of eating like average, you know, how a normal person would. Like, how would you try to convince me if I was a little bit more hard-headed?
I think the same, honestly, like the same way that I did from the
like, just start cooking it yourself sort of thing? And
like, I do cook most of the meals, but like, I like making our food, and I like both of us are kind of the same in that way,
Yep.
where we kind of are particular about like, I want it to taste this specific way and I want it to be this specific way.
Yep.
So when I first started, like, I was very much like, oh, try these nuggets that I found. Like, I was never like, oh, like, these are for me only. I was always kind of like, oh, try this. So, like, I think to have an advantage, like, back then you cooked everything for you, and I cooked everything for me.
Yep. It was like separate, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where when you go into the next stage where, like, one person may be cooking more than the other, or if you're cooking together. Like, I think if you're really hard-headed and we're cooking together, which probably is a rare situation, I would just start automatically, like, making the food. And then, because that's kind of how it happened with us, was I was just cooking the meals, and I was like, well, I don't want to cook this meat, so let me just make this. And you were enjoying the food.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, well, this is good, and, like, I feel good, and I'm not, like, withering away like a protein deficient vegan. Like, you know, those things weren't happening. And then I think you kind of were paying attention though, like, okay, I don't even know if you cared at that point. I think you were just like, oh, like, she's cooking some good food, I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah, and again, for me, I think our situation is a little different. I'm pretty easygoing. Like, I like things the same way. I don't like too much change per se. So when I'd fully changed to being vegan, I was fine with it. Like, you know, it was just maybe a matter of trying different vegan mock meats and things like that. But I was never really, I'll be picky like on the brand, but not so much like once we got down, you know, normally I want my food piping hot or I want certain seasonings on things. But it's just like, I'm very easy outside of that basically. So I think, somebody was a little bit more kind of hard-headed though. I'm trying to think like, what would you say if when you brought me that food before and I'm like, this is disgusting, or like even refused to eat, like what would be the next course of action? So I'm trying to think, that's kind of a hard question to say. Like, I think that's deeper than just the food though.
That's what I think too.
Kind of disrespectful a little bit.
Yeah, because, okay, first of all, like, I'm getting a free meal here. Like, she's cooking for me. But secondly, like, I think if you're like, as a woman, or I guess if you're in a same-sex relationship, it doesn't matter. But
either way.
I think you should be able and capable to put your foot down and say, like, I don't want to cook meat.
Yeah.
If you want that meat, like, you're welcome. I can cook this meal. Like, say I'm making something for myself. Okay, well, I'm going to eat the tofu with my mashed potatoes and whatever. You can have the mashed potatoes and veggies or whatever, but you're cooking your own steak. Like, you're cooking your meat.
That's a good point.
Because I'm not doing that. So I think, like, that would be, like, an okay compromise.
Yeah.
Because we do know some people that the husband does still like having a steak every now and then, but gladly eats like Beyond Burgers and whatever, you know what I mean, his wife makes. So I think it's very much doable. I think you just have to be willing and also able to compromise. So like if you really need that steak, like you eat it then. And that's okay. I'm just not going to cook it. So if you can at least like put your foot down of that and they can respect that boundary, I think that's how it could work.
That's a good point. I think if they overstep the boundary, that's a red flag, I would say, right? Like that's something you should maybe consider a little bit deeper. Not saying break up with the person, but you know, if you're really truly thinking of spending the rest of your entire life with them.
And being vegan or vegetarian for the rest of your life too.
Exactly. It used to, at first it was hard, like, oh my gosh, where are we going to get food and all these things, but it's like, over time, this is so easy now.
Oh,
it's very, like, I can't even, it's almost hard to think, what meats would I eat if I had to? I'm like, I don't even want to even think about that. So, I think it's when you get to that mindset, it becomes very easy. And then again, the one big thing I would tell you at home is the seasonings make a huge difference.
Yes.
So looking into, you know, how seasonings are made, watch cooking videos, get an idea of, like, what different seasonings do in combination together, and having that knowledge, it could take your, again, because tofu for us at first, geez, I was like, it would taste like water almost. Like tofu, we couldn't do it.
For the longest time, like, it was such a struggle, and like if you've watched my YouTube videos, I really touch on like, I need my tofu to be flavored, okay? Like, I don't love the flavor of tofu, which I know there's some vegans that could just take it out of the package and like start munching. No. Okay? That's not so.
You're in the forest, you need something, I guess it works. But come on.
This is the thing. This is what people think. Like, and this is actually, I feel like, was where kind of a divide, because then there are non-vegans that will try like a tofu dish and it's tastes like tofu. Well, of course they're not going to like it. It tastes like tofu. Like, if you are like me and you're like, well, I don't like that, you're not going to like, you're going to think, oh, veganism ain't for me then. Well, yeah, no kidding. But then you see people that are seasoning their chicken with salt and pepper, and it's like, well, why do you expect tofu to taste good?
Yes.
With
Yes.
zero seasonings. Like, you have to learn. Like,
Yep.
even with meat, like, marinating things is a thing.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you just apply the same
Yes.
to a tofu, for example, or soy curls, or like, I mean, now it's way easier. Like, there's the Beyond Meat products are everywhere.
Yep.
There's so many options. Like, it's there's so, like, frozen food too. There's so many. TVP, like, there's the cheaper options. Beans, like, obviously it depends. Like, when we first started, it was like we really depended on those mock meats that were ready made. We did try. We were having tofu always, but we really like tried more of like the nuggets and that kind of ground.
Yeah, we're kind of willing to veer out a little bit more and kind
Yeah.
of get into it, because at that point we're like, we can't just keep eating mock meats like
Yeah.
that, right? We're kind of getting like, let's do the whole thing. I remember making, before you knew you were a celiac, making seitan.
Yes.
You know, from like the I think it had, what is that, wheat gluten?
Wheat gluten, yeah.
So we just put that together. Again, for me, I found at first I was like, I don't love it. I put some like liquids. I added the liquid smoke and some other seasonings to it, and Carly started liking it a little bit. But I think now looking back, because Carly never loved when I made it.
Yeah.
But I think it was because what was in there.
Yeah.
But near the end, but when I used to still make it, you were kind of liking it a little bit because I was seasoning it a little bit better.
Yeah.
You kind of almost couldn't get that taste. So I think, yeah, it's just a matter of like trial and error. You know, not every meal is going to be perfect, especially when you're starting out. So just don't get discouraged. And, you know, again, being vegan, we have to remember too, it's like it's a lifestyle, right? We're not doing it for, you know, just to have a vegan title. Maybe some people are, but I think, again, think about, you know, our impact might not be the biggest, but together, I think we do reduce a lot of, you know, unnecessary harm.
Yeah.
A little bit less of a footprint of, you know, just the emissions and stuff like that for transporting stuff we're not buying, right? So, yeah, I think it helps everywhere around, even with our clothing options and things outside that you wouldn't think of, like gloves and things like that. We try to ensure that there's not any like meat, or not meat, but like animal products used in that. So, yeah, when you're vegan, you have to remember it's not just for the food. It's like a lifestyle. And I think that's the thing, like maybe something was gifted to you that has maybe an animal product in it. I look at that a little bit different. Say it was a clothing item or something like that. It's like, well, I didn't buy this. It was gifted to me. So therefore, I would use it. But for the most part, we're pretty vegan all around, I would say. I think, there's nothing that we do that's un-vegan, whatever. But
no. But at the same time, I think as well, like sometimes you make a mistake and you buy something and then you didn't read the ingredients well enough, or
the honey one can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, honey sometimes hides in some things and you don't realize. You're like, oh yeah, these look good, and then
even the
like,
honey debate, I'll take a hot take on it. For I feel that, like, you know, where a lot of vegans will say you shouldn't eat honey, right? But for me, I look at it as these bees are worker bees, right? So if you take the honey and you don't hurt them, obviously, I guess in the process some would maybe get killed or disrupted. But once everything's put back and you've extracted the honeycombs, and now there's more work for them to do. So I feel like it just kind of fulfills their life. That's really all they're doing is working. So for me, I'm not going to go and buy honey, but say I got a tea or someone gave me something and it had honey in it, I'm not going to turn it down. If it had milk in it now, like regular milk, I don't want that. So that's where I kind of have a hard time. Like that's the most thing for me is like honey. It doesn't even happen this often, but like, and like if it hasn't, I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Like for me, I'm okay with that.
Especially, like you said, we don't go and like, if there's honey in it, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah.
But like when we went to the gluten-free, and one of the things had honey in it, and we didn't know.
That expo that we
the expo, which I made a video with the soup, the Thai soup.
Oh yeah.
I was like showing the camera and I was like, oh, there's honey. Like I didn't realize. And you know, like it might not have. When we're there, we're just trying things. You know what I mean? You're not. It's fine. Like you can make a mistake. It's not like people.
It's not about being perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you can't ever be the perfect vegan, to be honest.
Even perfect human in all ends, right? Like you're always gonna have flaws per se, but I think that's what makes you yourself and unique. So yeah, if you've ever made a mistake, don't beat yourself up. You know, and if you see people, I don't think pounding them to the ground is a good idea either. Because there is some vegans that are a little bit more extreme. And I feel like for me personally, that's what turns me off of like other vegans where it's like the protesters and stuff sometimes. It's a little much. Where I get that we need protesters in a way to get it in people's face. But I feel like that just makes a conflict where it's like you're telling somebody they're doing something wrong in their life, which is like, you're going to be defensive. It's like, hey, like, this is my life. I lived it for how many years? So now if you're coming to somebody saying, well, what you're doing for the last however many years you've been alive is wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, so for me, I like to be more just do my thing, and people ask me, now I have the floor to say. And I'm not pushing them to veganism or anything, but I've had quite a few people inquire with me outside of like a group event. Hey, where do you get the protein from? How do you? I like what your mindset was on it. So again, I kind of come off a little bit more calm, cool. I don't, hey, I'm vegan and have all this vegan merch and everything. That's not really. Clay.
Yeah.
And part of me is being Clay is being vegan.
A lot of people don't actually know.
No, yeah, and they're shocked. When sometimes I tell people, they're like, no way, and they think I'm bullshitting. So I've got that a lot too as well. They're like, no way. And again, I think not that I'm just a huge person, but I'm quite large for my size. That sounds so weird to say, but I'm not a scrawny vegan. You know what I mean? Then it's okay if you are a scrawny vegan. You don't need to be huge, but I think it's just people have this image in their mind maybe a vegan's like a frail, skinny, just waiting for a bone to break when opening the fridge.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that's not the case. And if you're there, I think again you could still get stronger. You have to educate yourself. You have to again, that would go with a little bit of fitness, finding how to add size to your body. And you could do it if you put your mind to it. So, and it makes it easier when you have somebody working with you. You're working in unison. It goes outside of just the food too. That's all I wanted to say.
If you miss.
Oh yeah, if I miss.
If you miss anything from with pre-vegan.
You know what? I guess the only thing I miss, mostly, and it's not even necessarily the food itself, but okay, maybe it's two things. One, being able to go to a restaurant and just like pick anything off the menu.
Convenient. Right?
So when you go to a vegan restaurant, yes, you can do that, but for when I go out with like regular friends and stuff, I'm usually just getting French fries and like a drink that I can have. Luckily for me, I can do that because like the fryer cross-contaminated with gluten doesn't bug me. But yeah, I missed that. So just going to a restaurant, just picking anything off the menu. And the other thing I guess too is just getting a meal and then not having people, why are you not eating anything? Like that's another thing that I miss is like, kind of like that, what comes with, especially in a group setting. It's like, it feels a little awkward, or even like family stuff at first when we were not being vegan. It was just kind of like a little bit hard of like, we're eating this differently, or we had to bring something.
Or you almost have to remind.
Yeah, remind when you don't want to.
Beginning,
like, you're not trying to be a dick. But it's like, I don't eat that.
Remember, like I don't eat meat.
And again, it's been years. So my family's been very supportive. Your family's been nothing but supportive, and I think that's helped us too as well. But yeah, those are maybe the couple things I miss. Not so much like the meat. I never really had a dream about missing the taco or a quesadilla or anything like that. Yeah, that's the only thing come to mind. How about you? Anything you miss?
I would say the same things, like mostly convenience.
Yeah.
Of it, but especially being gluten free makes it a lot harder.
More for you.
I will say like it's a very like you gotta be strong. Okay. Being gluten free honestly has really kind of affected my mind because it's so you think that like just being vegan is inconvenient, like
Carly when she orders, I feel like. But you have to be because people need to understand. Remember what I said about the restaurant? I didn't think it was real. I thought, why are you here?
Yeah.
You went to one of the, it was like, we got a wrap, and you went there to order. We're not going to dox them. But the girls seem to care less about Carly being gluten-free. Okay? Just like kind of just monotone. And it's like, that makes it hard to eat out where it's like, you're not being heard. So I think it takes, because some people don't really care so much. You have to be a little bit more stern with your order. And it's like, this is an allergy. You start with, I have a celiac allergy. And even usually I'll let you order first and then I'll order next. So if I get something that has like the bread, or not bread, but gluten on it, I don't want that to potentially cross-contaminate. One place I'll shout out, Mexi Guac.
Yeah.
They're so good.
They're really good.
Very good. Especially one here in St. Catharines. Amazing. They'll do, then they made sure I got a burrito and you got one. They're like, we're going to make hers first because we don't want any chance of it crossing. So that makes it so much easier. I wish everywhere was like that. That's got to be tough for you for sure.
It really gives you like choose one or the other.
Yeah. Happy's is really good too.
Yeah,
especially,
Happy's is really
they make sure
excellent,
they put yours aside too as well for they're going to bag them up. Nicole there, the owner, she is super, she makes sure that like everything is good. And even with their options, they'd have regular and gluten-free, non-gluten-free options.
Yeah,
I think helps
they always
a lot
have
too.
Everything. And vegan too, like everything's vegan options too.
So good.
So it's super nice to have a place like that that actually cares and actually like is welcoming to everyone.
Yep.
Like literally anyone could eat there. There's no problems.
Yep.
I feel like hopefully it will change one day.
I think it's getting there over the years as people like yourself and other gluten-free people kind of band together.
Yeah.
I think again in our grand scheme, I'd love to see Carly one day being able to have enough influence and a voice to be able to help restaurants become fully gluten-free certified, like making sure they have that fryer. That, you know, you go
like
in
a
there.
training
Yeah, you
manual.
kind of analyze. Yeah, for like the workers that come in, and you come in and inspect, or again maybe you can make a team that go in and kind of just make sure everything is good to go. The training videos are done to a way that people can learn. Okay, we throw the gloves away.
Yeah, so everyone knows. If you work here, you know what that is, what all food allergies are. Like one day, my dream would be like if celiac disease can be treated like a seafood.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people with seafood allergies is like anaphylaxis, like bad, or like a peanut allergy, like bad. And that can happen with celiac too. It's not as common, but...
And I think what's hard with celiac, because it's internal, right? You can't really see that as much. Where the other stuff is like you can visually see somebody's face getting like flushed or red or whatever, right? Or swollen. And that's, I think, a little bit harder because you don't see. But over time, it's going to be more aware. I think, again, veganism's even improved since the 5 years we've been doing it. So just a matter of time till the gluten-free options become more
like standard.
Yeah, exactly. And even just options in the store to grab. Like, again, Carly's been waiting. If anybody out there knows or has gluten-free nuggets, breaded, send them our way. Because Carly, when's the last time you had a nugget?
I think it was that Unmeatable brand.
Really?
Yes, but for some reason either they bothered me or they didn't taste good or something like that.
Yep.
Because I've tried one. Since being diagnosed, I have tried, or stopping eating gluten, I've tried one vegan, gluten-free, like from the store. Like I could just go to the store and buy nuggets. And like, that's the one thing I miss the most.
Big time. Is
just having something that's breaded and like fried or deep fried, like French fries too. The restaurants that are killing it, that are gluten-free and vegan, like Planted in Hamilton.
Oh yeah, crushing it.
Crushing it. They're so good. I always get the same thing, and it's always something deep fried.
We went there for your birthday, right?
Yes, we went there for my birthday.
Oh my gosh, you were loving that fish and chips. It looks so good.
So I always get, we've only gone a couple times, but I always get the fish and chips because fish and chips, first of all, are rare to find.
Oh yeah.
Secondly, they're deep fried and they're battered.
Yep.
So if I can find something battered in a gluten-free batter in a gluten-free safe fryer, you know I'm getting that.
Yep.
Like, it is my one thing that I miss. And I mean, obviously it's unhealthy, but like, you're allowed to eat unhealthy every once in a while, and so that's one thing.
Exactly, because you're healthy all the other times, I would say, and even most of your food, you gotta. Carly can't even have fries at A&W. That's gonna cause a problem. So it's like you've been.
It's a good chance it will, anyways.
Yeah, nothing but clean overall. Like, you know, the chilies, everything you make. Like, we don't really eat unhealthy. You make some like sweets and things like that.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's
the one. And even for you have a couple bites. You're good. I'm a monster. I'm a cookie monster.
I eat like one or two cookies or like one slice of a brownie, and I
eat one or two recipes that's left over after Carly that or what. So I think again you're very. So when you have a chance to have something like the fish and chips, and again we're driving home and Carly's not upset or feeling I'm getting weird, because I remember just oh my god, like it's just this visual memory of like your face getting a little bit red, and then you got to roll down the window, and then it's I can't talk because you're just trying to focus on not dying.
Yeah, literally.
Oh my gosh, like that's so it's nice to just drive around and like you don't feel like sick after. Yeah. That's such a good feeling.
Yes, that is one of the biggest things for me. And I don't really, I'm trying to think back on like just switching to vegan if like if I really felt like different per se, like it's so it feels so long ago to compare, but like I wasn't eating that much meat. Well, this was a really fun conversation. It was really good.
Well, way longer than I thought.
Oh,
it was so fun.
Yeah, see, we gotta get this one on here more often. But I do think that there's not enough people talking about it.
Yeah.
Or as open. And I know there are plenty of vegans that are just like us that are like, do your own thing, and like we're love for you to, you know, eat less meat, but I'm not gonna be like.
Yeah, we still have friends that eat meat and things like that too. We're not, you know, we're not saying, oh, you have to, but I think it helps.
Yeah.
Having a partner and, you know.
Yeah, and also like we have family over here. I'm gonna cook the vegan gluten-free stuff, or like I bring something to a family event. Like I'm gonna feed y'all the gluten-free, and you're gonna eat it and be like, well, that was really good. Yeah.
We're going there with full Tupperware, coming home with nothing in it.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know like how good it can be. So I've never had a complaint, especially even since being gluten-free now. I've had a lot of like good feedback from people that can eat gluten, and they're like, this is not what I thought gluten-free was all made out to be. So, you know, with some practice, and practice makes perfect.
Yep, trial and error.
You know, with both vegan and gluten-free, you just really gotta want to put in the work a little bit, but
don't beat up yourself if it doesn't work out the way you expected.
And
you're still doing a great job.
Yeah, and I have to say, with anything, if you want a good meal, you have to put in the work.
Yep.
Like we didn't just all of a sudden we start cooking for ourselves and know how to cook really good meals, even down to the actual cooking process, like having the pan at the correct temperature and, you know, that kind of thing makes a big difference too. Also, on the healthy thing, like you say, if we eat healthy or whatever, but I make treats. But like one of my friends that I was running with, she asked me about like, oh, is it like, it's very healthy to be vegan? I'm like, it's a variety.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm vegan, I'm healthy and I eat only salads. Like, no, you can definitely, there's vegan junk food, there is unhealthy vegan food. I bake, obviously, if you guys see, I bake all the time.
Yep.
I put sugar, I use corn syrup, not often, but I do make some stuff with corn syrup, and I know that's not healthy.
Now that you say that, I voiced my concerns, especially when my health, for me personally, I felt I was getting a little unhealthy. Even though it's the scale kind of going up a bit, but I'd realized I was letting myself kind of go a little bit, adding a lot of condiments to things and stuff, and Carly was still baking, so I suggested like, hey, can you try some healthier things too?
Yeah.
Like, so mix it in and not like so much, because again, I have once it's made and I've tried some, it's done, like it's lock mode.
You're kind of like a bottomless pit too.
Yes, I keep going, which is like, it's dangerous. I don't even know how I do it still. But always as a kid, I like sweets and stuff, so I was kind of always been like an issue of like just the control of that. But I think again, you did do the research and looked into healthier dessert options, and you try your best when you're making things to kind of be cognizant of that. So again, it's great. I'm grateful to have Carly to be in a relationship with, because she appreciates and respects my requests for healthier options when needed. And again, I also support her too, because I know you have a YouTube channel where you cook and bake and things like that, that you need to share those with other people too as well. So now like maybe, okay, we'll make half a batch, we'll freeze the rest. Yeah. Right? Or okay, maybe I'll make like healthy power balls or something like that, right? So it's not just purely all sugar or purely all healthy, it's got a good and healthy balance of both. Yep. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you for your
today.
Time. No, I guess this has been in the works for a minute. We had some topics we want to talk about.
Yeah, as long
love to come back on if you have any more topics.
Well, I mean, we're thinking of doing like a weekly grocery plan.
Yeah, we should do that.
Planning video.
Yeah, we could do that.
Where we sit down and we meal plan for the week, because we're terrible at that.
That's something we should. Yeah, we wanted to do this new year, kind of really map out a little bit better.
We're really like, oh, what are we having for dinner tonight? And then we kind of throw some ideas at each other, and then we're like, okay, especially if I'm like, I don't know I don't feel like cooking, or like sometimes by the time, 6 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, I don't want to put the effort in. Like, can we just eat some baked potatoes or something? And then you're okay with that. But I think it's okay to eat like,
well, and I think too, because our life, we're working a lot, like our business is all, it's like mind power, right? I don't want to think too much about the food, and I'm grateful that you do make every meal. Now, if we just had that plan done, we're on autopilot. We could just kind of cruise through, do our work. This year is really good with our planning and our goal setting. So I think, if we just had our food on lock like that, do a little bit of prep, like make a maybe large amount of rice on a Sunday or something like that, that can kind of stretch for a couple days. And
like the other day I had made, in the same night, I just prepped up some falafel. Yeah. And then I also prepped up like these tofu meatballs. I'll probably make a video on them to show you guys. These tofu meatballs as well. So one of them we had for dinner that night, and then we
the
just
other one was ready to go
for the next day. And I had made.
So Carly went on her run right that night.
Yeah.
You came home and just popped them. You popped the falafel in the pan, let them sit in the oven while we were making the rest, and
I already had rice prepped. So if you have. If you plan, okay, if I make a big thing of rice, and then you plan, okay, we'll have a
couple meals to have.
Maybe 2-3 meals that we can eat the rice in the next like 2-3 days, then Perfect.
It's easy. And you're just on autopilot. Do what you got to do. And I think let's do this like maybe in a couple weeks from now, because you could do your next one alone or whatever, go back to your regular. We got a lot of fun video ideas, so at least for Carly's side coming up. So I think this sparked me up. I want to get back on the camera again.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really fun.
If there's any ideas that you guys have, obviously, like
drop them down.
For the both of us to do something together, if you want to know more about something particular.
Yeah, maybe
we covered a lot of stuff today,
kind of was
to be honest.
Broad brush, basically. So if anything we didn't touch enough on, that you want us to go a little bit more in depth on, I'll definitely be down to come back on to recircle back on some of those.
Yeah. I'm going to be starting now to put effort more into like the game day snacks and treats because we're in playoffs
Super
now.
Bowl's right around the corner.
Super Bowl's around the corner, so I want to make, some videos about some game day snacks coming up. So I have some things, in my mind already that I need to get cracking and get filming some more. So
nothing to it.
Step number 1, but to do it. And on that note, that will be it for this episode of Super Good, Super Delicious podcast. Please drop some comments below. Let me know what you think. This is my first episode with a guest.
Yeah, I want to thank Carly for having me on today. You guys don't get to see all the hard work that goes behind some of this stuff sometimes. We're a smaller channel, but you're growing. You put a lot of effort in. So, I appreciate you out there, the viewer, that are supporting Carly, because you're helping her dreams come true. And I hope, again, these videos are helping you. So it's like we're all unison together. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for getting me out of my turtle shell. And I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see what's to come next. And I'm excited to do some more videos together. Yeah. So with that being said, this is Super Good, Super Delicious podcast. Carly will see you next time. Maybe I'll be there. Maybe it's a different guest. You'll never know. Thanks for joining us. Peace out.
Bye.